The big mistake Tanzanian parliamentarians made is that rather than address the issue, they went and addressed people that were throwing jabs online, and they were throwing back those jabs, saying stuff like Kenya hawatushindi kitu na nini. And now they gave fuel to the people who are throwing these jabs online. And that's why, you started seeing people releasing the phone numbers of those Tanzanian members of parliament, people releasing their academic records, because Kenyans online are vicious. We forced CNN to apologize. That's something that there's a tendency to forget sometimes. So I think if the Tanzanian parliament had focused on the issue, I think there would not have been a problem. I think they were unfairly attacked. I will apologize to them on behalf of Kenyans on Twitter, but I think they also approach this in a totally wrong way.
Does it hurt relations between the East African community? And not within the leadership, I don't think so. Within the people, probably. We had Tanzanians who were there, who are actually castigating their own government. And that is why they took the excuse of Kenyans hacking into the police Twitter as an excuse for them to shut down the Twitter, because they knew that the Kenyans were going to influence the Tanzanian citizenship that's online and tell them, because people are calling out Tanzanians like, yo, guys, do you think this is okay? Is this really okay? And they were posting pictures and ridiculing them. And then, Tanzanians were feeling stupid, like our leaderships look stupid, and they were turning on them. So it just shows that relations will be between Museveni, Suluhu, and Ruto. They'll be fine. They have archaic leadership tendencies. They have a dictatorship tendency inside them. They'll be fine now. Ataskizana. If they agree to oppress, if the East African Cooperation is them working together to oppress people, they'll be fine. But within the people itself.
Now, this hour, we are going to be diving into the simmering Kenya-Tanzania feud that's had the region buzzing, from Tundu Lisu's explosive treason trial to the dramatic arrest and deportation of Boniface Mwangi. We'll explore what Tanzanian law says, if Kenya crossed a line, and whether the East African dream is slipping away. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuned in from and what you want to hear from the show tonight. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It is Friday the 30th of May, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You already know the handles. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. OneMicShow, sports anchor Mika Och, and DJ Omoshfire will be joining us via Zoom. And also not forgetting that our producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio, who will come in and out of the conversation, because this conversation has a lot to touch with Tanzania, and he's an interested party in this conversation. And yes, you all know the online firestorm that has been happening. So tonight, we want to dive headfirst into the fiery Kenya-Tanzanian feud that's exploded in the past 2 weeks. What began as a simple show of solidarity but turned into a diplomatic spectacle. Now, Kenyan activists, including Boniface Mwangi, were denied entry, deported, and allegedly tortured while trying to attend Tanzanian opposition leaders Tundu Lisu's treason trial. What followed was a vicious social media firestorm and assault. Now, Kenyans online unleashed pure fury, trashing President Samia Suluhu, mocking her speeches, and even ridiculing Tanzanian influencer, and nothing was spared on the way. But beneath the memes and hashtags lies a deeper story. Did Tanzania break regional movement laws under the East African Protocol? Was this a justified act of sovereignty or a state's fear of the spotlight? Now, tonight we cut through the noise. We'll unpack Tundu Lisu's legal wars, the controversial arrests, reactions from both governments, and the haunting allegations of torture. Most importantly, we ask, where does this leave East Africa's fragile brotherhood? So buckle up and drop your comments below and tell us what your thoughts are on this topic. I can see Drew Kimani is already tuned in. Anasema DJ Omosh must bring a doctor's note to explain his tardiness. So Dr. Omosh, not Dr. Omosh, DJ Omosh, you're not a doctor. DJ Omosh, yeah. DJ Omosh, you'll have to explain where you are. So, and the question that we're going to be asking, was this Kenya's overreach or Tanzania's paranoia? And at this juncture, I want to take this time to introduce the first panelist, DJ Omosh Fire, who's working remotely without any permission. DJ Omosh Fire, karibu sana ndani ya One Mic Show. How are you doing tonight? Can you hear us?
Sama, I can hear you, I can see you. Can you see me well? Do I look like I am well? There's another place, it's an island where there's a lot of fishes. So I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes,
maybe say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I can hear you.
No, Omosh, we can hear you. We can hear you loud. We can hear you loud and clear. So, like, tell us how you've been consuming this online firestorm. Was this Kenya's overreach or is this Tanzania's paranoia? DJ Omosh Fire, twende kazi.
I think it's a combination. So I think when I say Kenyans, so Kenya's overreach is on social media, because Kenyans on social media, or KOT, for lack of a better word, they can get up into you, ask the Nigerians. Now, going back to the Tanzanians, I think there's, what Kenyans need to realize, there's actually a big difference between how Tanzanians handle political dissidents, if that's what you want to call it, or people who are not aligned with the government, versus how Kenyans handle that. In Kenya, we have freedom of expression, which we are able to express, and like in TZ, you don't have that. And so when we take our freedom of expression across the border into TZ and expect to see things happen in a different way, it will not turn out good. And Magufuli was a perfect example, as we saw how he dealt with the issue of the chickens, the cows, and all sorts of different other things where we had him in trade was ongoing. And people assumed that Mama Suluhu was not going to be doing the same thing, but they're cut from the same cloth, and they are under the same political umbrella, so to speak. And of course, Bandit can speak more to that for us. So for me, the way I've been consuming this is that Kenyans, at some point, we also need to learn how to fall on our own swords internally, na pengine kuna zingine pia unaangalia kutoka mbali, alafu unasema hiyo sasa tutaachia wenyeji wa humo wafanye nini, wajisort ama waone vile watapigana humo ndani. Someone else may say that I'm not being a good neighbor by coming in to fight that battle for them, but I think that Kenyans have overplayed their hand in terms of this whole thing. And at this point, really both sides need to sit down and have a conversation and iron everything out. But we also know where our limits are. Back to you, studio.
Okay, asante sana DJ Omosh Fire. And I don't know whether Mika Och is already tuned in. Mika Och, nataka kukaribisha sana, karibu sana. I want you to also tell us, where have you been consuming this from? And then the other question is, this was a few activists who went into Tanzania, but it seems like members of parliament in Tanzania started unleashing on all Kenyans, hamtuzidi kwa kitu chochote and all that kind of talk. So Mika Och, twende kazi, karibu sana, and tell us how you've been consuming this feud.
Good evening. Happy Friday. How is everybody? For me, I've been looking at this feud in a way whereby it's that of who threw the first stone here, right? Because I'm looking at it in a point of, okay, you're in your house and you're supposed to argue with one of the residents in your house, then your neighbor wants to come and sit into that argument. And this person who you want to have that argument with is somebody who you think is undermining your leadership in that house based on the rules that you guys agreed on, whether they like them or not. So I'm seeing that Tanzania has every right to deny everybody entry, whoever they feel they don't want to go in their country. They have that right to do that. That is on them. You are not guaranteed entry into any country. If that country seems that whatever you're coming to do is not in accordance with their laws. Now, denial of entry is what you're entitled to. Torture and abduction, you're not entitled to that. Now that you're crossing the line. So what Tanzania should have done, because they let Boni and Agatha into the country, what they should have done is they should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country. They didn't want them there, the way they stopped other people from getting in, the way they stopped Madakarua, Anifa, and all the other activists. They should have stopped Boni and Agatha from entering the country and sent them back. And that would have avoided all this. So I don't see how they can then turn around and start trying to play victim here while you let people into your country, then went to abduct or arrest them. And then instead of releasing them and just deporting them, you drove them to the borders of their respective countries and dumped them there after you've tortured and had them to allegation of sexual abuse. So that is something that was an overstep by the Tanzanian government. Now, Kenyans also always will react because why did you arrest people? Why you abduct? Kenyans have this thing in their mind. It's fresh. It's still happening to them. So for them, they will react, and they reacted. And then now for the parliament to turn around and start discussing about Kenya, I feel that is very childish for a whole session of parliament to sit down and try to castigate people in a country, trying to please. You've done wrong. Even if these people were bad people, you felt they were bad coming to your country. You've done wrong by arresting and torturing people. Now you go to parliament again, a whole leadership, and start discussing. And then instead of even discussing on ways on how you can do it with Kenya, you start talking about the people of Kenya. You're actually the ones who actually look foolish at that point, because I don't see how a session of parliament sits down. Imagine a session of Congress sitting down and talking about Mexicans. Oh, they eat maragwe. They're stupid. Oh, they're deplorable. Like you look like clowns. And then the people you're talking about are kids on the internet, not even. Anyway, for me, I think that, as you said, Ali, does it hurt relations between the East African community? And not within the leadership. I don't think so. Within the people, probably. We had Tanzanians who were there, who are actually castigating their own government. And that is why they took the excuse of Kenyans hacking into the police Twitter as an excuse for them to shut down the Twitter, because they knew that the Kenyans were going to influence the Tanzanian citizenship that's online and tell them, like, because people are calling out Tanzanians like, yo, guys, do you think this is okay? Like, is this really okay? And they were posting pictures and ridiculing them. And then, okay, Tanzanians were feeling stupid, like our leaderships look stupid, and they were turning on them. So it just shows that relations will be between Museveni, Suluhu, and Ruto. They'll be fine. They have archaic leadership tendencies. They have a dictatorship tendency inside them. They'll be fine now. Oh, Taskizana. If they agree to oppress, if the East African Cooperation is them working together to oppress people, they'll be fine. But within the people itself, has it ruined relations? I don't think it has ruined or improved everything, but it has definitely shifted mindsets of people. Back to you.
All right, that is Mika Och. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. You're tuned into the One Mic Show. Apo Mika Och breaking it down. So type your comments and let us know what you think about what Mika has said. So quite a number of things that Mika unpacked there, from the fact that he said that they do have a right to deny anyone they want entry, but they do not have a right to hold people, torture them. There's even allegations of rape against the Ugandan Agatha Tuhaire, the journalist, and then they were dumped, on their respective borders. They were actually allowed to come into the country, and one of the explanation that was given is that under Tanzania's Immigration Act, engaging in certain activities without appropriate permits is prohibited. And Section 16 of the Act states that individuals must not engage in employment, study, or other prescribed activities. I would like to know, this is where I would have loved, like to get Bandio's input. What are those other prescribed activities without the necessary permits? Tanzanian authorities allege that Boniface Mwangi provided false information to gain entry, and while the specific reasons for Atuhaire's detention remain unclear, they were both arrested, detained, allegedly tortured, and there was an alleged rape. Of course, and I'm using the strong words alleged because this is what has been reported by various reputable media sources using the word alleged, and they were dumped in the two different countries at different border points. Then there's another theory. Now, because we are not being given full information, that's why these theories are coming. And there's another theory suggesting that Kina Boni might have been trapped because everyone else was being stopped at the airport. Everyone who they did not want to enter the country was being stopped at the airport. So Kina Boni might have been trapped. Ingieni, and then we're going to arrest you. Going back to what Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi in an interview on Citizen was saying, it was difficult to know whether he was the Foreign Affairs Minister of Kenya or Tanzania. Your citizen has been tortured. At that time, he had still been, he was still under the custody of Tanzanian security agencies. So Musalia, the way he was speaking, you're supposed to behave in a certain way, he was speaking like he was the Minister for Foreign Affairs
for
Tanzania, which was very shocking, which lends me to ask before I come to Uno Mike, is there a possibility that there might have been collusion between the Kenyan government and the Tanzanian government? Finya hawa watu, because the ones who they did not want to come in, former Cabinet Secretary Martha Karua, there was Hanifa, who was also there, activist, and there was a number of other people, former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga. They were all denied entry. But Boni and the Ugandan journalists were allowed entry, and then they were dramatically arrested and tortured and then dumped at their respective borders. Uno Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
I think one, karibuni sana, by the way, it's been a long time. I think there was the media really needed to break down the simplistic nature of what really transpired, because the call of certain persons being deported only to find out that they were not allowed entry, that brought a lot of confusion, because people are still saying that they were deported.
Yeah,
they were not deported. Mother Karo was not deported. Hanifa, what's her name? The lady. Hanifa. Yeah, those guys were denied entry, rightfully so. Tanzania has the right to deny entry, like any other country. It's just like when you're coming over here, unless upite customs. And you're told karibu, we uko border, you're still at the border. If you remember creme de la creme case. Yeah. Anyway, that is one.
But kama your creme, was it deportation or denial of entry?
It was denial of entry.
Denial of
entry. Was denial of entry.
Okay.
As long as you haven't said ukipiga hiyo ukiambiwa welcome to the United States.
Yeah.
Passport and whatever inachapwa
so
nini.
Anything after that is now deportation, but before passport ipigwe stamp, ukirudishwa ni denial of entry.
Yes, ukirudishwa that is denial of entry.
Understood. Yeah.
That should have been made clear, or people should have ascertained that. That is one. Two. When it comes to Boni, if he had a tourist visa and if he was not doing touristy things, then they have every right to revoke, right? If they say tunataka ukuje ufanye uende tourism, so by you being a tourist unaenda Lake Tanganyika, unaenda hapa. But if you're caught in late night political meetings, that's a different story.
So what did Boni do? That is a question.
So now that is what we need to do.
He was in a hotel.
He was in a hotel.
Yeah.
Right? He was in a hotel. What we know is he was alichukuliwa.
He was allowed picked up while having breakfast.
He was picked up.
Yeah.
technically you'd say he was doing a touristy thing because he was staying in a hotel having breakfast.
Yeah.
The next thing is tunamwona wapi? Kwa border limping.
Yeah.
That from the moment he was picked up to the next time we saw him, something really bad has happened. That one we can tell.
And they took him to the farthest possible border ya side ya Lunga akiingia ndani ya Kwale County.
So
yeah,
would we be wrong in saying there was collusion? Of course we would assume, because our own guy for the foreign affairs guy was like ni kama mazee alikuwa anafurahia.
Yeah, it's like he was happy.
Musalia Mudavadi looked like he was happy. He was saying, by the way, when you have to behave. It's not that unapeleka whatever. You can speculate. This is your Kenyan citizen in a foreign country with whom we have the diplomacy liko wapi.
Yeah.
Unajua the funny thing is what Ali and Uno is that wewe sahi kienda TZ that you need passport. Unaingia na ID yako. Unaona, that is how East African community operates. TZ you unaingia tu na ID yako unapita na umeishia. Basically bora ni Mkenya. Kama una PP unatumia passport. Kama una passport unaonyesha tu ID, utajaza zako ka form na unapita na certificate yako ya yellow fever na unaishia. Hata sasa ni yellow fever itishangi ID tu unapenya. So they had and they could have denied him entry quite easy, as it was as easy of him getting entry, because see it lazima apply visa ama nini. Wale unambo East African community unakuja hapo unapita hapo anaangalia ID anakuambia haya nini unakampudu nini, like simple. So tukisema hata anatumia hizo clauses za sijui visa yake nasema nini, East African community huko ni kwenu, uko home.
You'd think you're at home
now,
Mika.
Now your issue, your ID, and this is something to confirm. The 2 times I've entered through Zanzibar, because most of the time I entered Tanzania through Zanzibar, they actually do require a passport if you're using a flight. If you're using a flight, I think if you're on a land border, you can go in with an ID, but that's yet to be confirmed. However, there's an East Africa Community protocol about citizen movement. The East Africa Community Market Protocol, particularly Article 7, guarantees the free movement of persons among partner states. This provision allows citizens of member countries to enter, reside, and exit other partner states without the need of a visa. However, this right is subject to limitations imposed by the host partner state on grounds of public policy, public security, or public health. So public policy, public security, or public health. What is not clear right at this point is, what did Boniface Mwangi do?
Yes.
That's what lacks clarity. Maybe there's something he did. Maybe he tried to organize, he gathered, like people look at TZ and tried to organize. We do not know.
And up to now,
nothing
has been tabled as to ascertain or to say this is what he did. If you guys remember, if you guys mnakumbuka ile story ya Britney, like the basketball lady,
Britney Griner.
Yes.
The one who was arrested in Russia.
Yeah. Alibemba ni ndo mama alikuwa na nini? Na vape.
Alikuwa ni vape, yeah.
Alikuwa na vape.
Yeah.
Right? But technically, walisema alisema Udema alijaribu ku traffic tembe.
Drugs.
Yeah.
Unaona? Rightfully so, wakasema hapa this person atumtaki. They arrested, wakamweka korokoroni. There was something they said.
There was a process.
There was a process.
Yeah.
The other one, if you remember, the guys they have really negotiated for, it's guys who are being accused of espionage.
Yeah.
Journalists. Unaona? And some people they've been sentenced, they've gone through the trial as fast as it may be.
Yeah.
They've gone through a trial and they've been sentenced.
Yes.
Right? But they come out and say alikuwa ni espionage. He's a spy.
Yeah. So they give us something.
They give something.
Yes.
It could be mataheko. It could be useless.
Yes.
Garbage.
But they give something.
There's something.
Yeah.
Since that incident, we have not nothing. I don't, unless maybe they have said through their channels, or something has come out, or there's an official report or document or statement from Musalia Mudavadi stating what happened, or in consultation with the Tanzanian embassy, whatever. This was what this and this happened. This transpired, and this way he was arrested.
Yeah.
Arresting is one thing. Lakini, between being arrested and being released, Musalia Onwawo.
Yeah.
In addition to the young lady, the Ugandan journalist.
Yes. The lady journalist. And there's allegations of
Allegations.
rape. I will repeat allegations.
Allegations.
There's allegations of rape. So this right here is putting a very bad spotlight on Tanzania. They are our brothers, they are our friends, but this is putting a very bad spotlight on them. And we clearly don't know what the goals were, because I think it would have been okay to deport Boni for whatever reason, but torture and like transporting him from Dar es Salaam all the way to the Lunga Lunga border, that was totally unnecessary. The Ugandan journalist was also transported to a remote border in Uganda. Totally unnecessary. Now, some people are asking the question is, what was this horde of Kenyan activists doing going into Tanzania? That's something that we're going to discuss. But one of the reasons why they were going there was to attend Tundu Lisu's trial. And maybe some Kenyans may not be familiar with Tundu Lisu. Tundu Lisu is someone who's actually been right here in Kilimanjaro studio, and Bandio interviewed him on his show at Kwanza Production. And to those who are not familiar, Tundu Lisu is a former member of parliament and an opposition leader in Tanzania. He actually survived an assassination attempt back in 2017 after being shot 16 times and then went into exile. Tundu Lisu returned in 2020 and ran against the late President John Pombe Magufuli, coming in second and cementing his role as the face of resistance politics in Tanzania. Now, when you fast forward to 2025, he's now facing treason charges on accusation of inciting protests and challenging the legitimacy of state power. And under Tanzanian law, treason is a capital offense punishable by death. Critics, however, both local and international, say the charges are politically motivated and another tactic to silence dissent. The trial has drawn massive attention globally, including from Kenyan human rights activists who attempted to enter Tanzania to show solidarity, only to be turned away at the airports. But it's important to note that Justice David Maraga was actually allowed in. There was another former Chief Justice, Willy Mutunga, who was also among those people who was not allowed. Now those who made it in, of course, included the likes of Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan journalist Agatha Atuhaire, and they were picked up forcefully from their hotels by Tanzanian security agents. They were held for a couple of days and allegedly tortured, then got dumped hundreds of miles away at their respective borders. Now, these incidents, of course, ignited a full-blown online war between Kenyans and Tanzanians, with deep questions emerging about regional solidarity, free speech, and whether Tundu Lisu is getting a fair trial. So here's a question that I want to pose out to the panel, and I want to come out to DJ Omosh Fire. Menyamaza sana hapo. Is this about justice, or is this a warning shot to all those who dare to try to say anything about what's going on in Tanzania? DJ Omosh Fire.
And I hope there's no echo.
So, is there an echo now?
No. You keep talking. We'll let you know.
Okay, sawa. So, I think the way we've always seen things happen for our leadership or leaders in Africa and again in East Africa is there's certain things that are done to basically stop or quell unrest by basically being extremely severe, or as Uno had said, Thinya. So basically, you go after certain people, you make the statement, then once you have made the statement, then it quells the unrest or people who even were thinking of doing something like that, almost like fanya kujo uone or ili iwe funzo kwako na wengine kama wewe. So that to me is what seems to be happening here, where these guys have been made an example of, and now anybody who would try to come in, either to protest or to basically come and defend or something that is against pretty much the state and or the government, you know exactly, or you should be aware that there's a possibility that these things could happen. And obviously, all manner of people have cried foul on this. Amnesty International, the American government, I don't know who, all sorts of people have cried foul. And there's also something that Ali, you guys have not touched on, is a human rights, political activist and human rights defender from TZ called Mulude Nyagali, who's been missing since May 2nd. And he was picked up. Nobody has seen him since then, and these people are supposedly cops. So all of these things are things that are leading up to the whole Tundu Lisu treason trial, which, you know, like you said, is basically it's a non-bailable offense, and you know the sentence is basically death. Of record that people should note is that TZ has a presidential elections coming up in October. So go figure. You know, you can look at this thing in several different ways, but this is basically a warning shot telling people, don't mess with the establishment. We are the ones who are ruling, and we got this. Back to you, studio.
All right, asante sana DJ Omoshfa, and apologies, there's an echo coming from Omoshe's side. We're trying to resolve that, but I think bado mnamsikia. We're going to try to get that resolved. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We'd like to know, you know, like your views and your thoughts on this. Watu leo Facebook ni kama wametulia kidogo. On YouTube, you know, like people are talking there. Kuna firestorm. I content, iyo echo tunaangalia, pole sana. And then iContent says, I thought the East African passport allowed us to roam in and out kama kwenda Kisumu, Eldoret. That is what it's supposed to do, but that's not the practicality of what happens. And then Pablo hapa Paul Nzengo anasema there was a lot of conflicting information online, which left a lot of speculation. And clarity. I think he meant lack of clarity. CJ Maraga was in TZ. Why wasn't he denied entry to the same court Kina Martha Karua wanted to go? Even Boniface Mwangi, we are not clear on what they went to do huko TZ. Unfortunately, this story will end too hivyo this time. So yeah, you know, like and that's why there's a gap, and this is where media sources are supposed to fill in these gaps. We of course do not expect, and I'm saying this in a very polite way, we do not expect that gap to be filled by Tanzanian media, because Tanzanian media, I'm a big consumer of Tanzanian media, they will rarely openly criticize the government like the way we see in Kenyan media. So there's no expectation of getting that criticism from Tanzanian media, in all fairness. But Kenyan media hapa pia wamezembea. I think this is where, you know, like they need to take an extra step. In this era where there's information coming from all over, how you distinguish yourself as a mainstream media source is by being able to get these gaps that all these online sources are revealing cannot fill. Like, what exactly was Boniface doing in Tanzania? By the time he was getting arrested, what had he done for him to get arrested? Now, if he said upon entry that he had gone to Tanzania as a tourist to visit, what did he do to make the authorities determine that he had not come here to visit, but to do XYZ? These are the answers that we're asking from Tanzanian authorities. Mama Samia Suluhu, we love you, lakini hapa kidogo mi nitakwambia umekosea. You know, ndakwambia tu kidogo umekosea, and at the bare minimum, you owe Kenyans an explanation of not necessarily why Boniface Mwangi was deported, but why he had to be tortured before being deported.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deport a guy. Don't torture.
Yes. So I think that right there is very problematic. And I think also, unfortunately, when this conversation spills back into Kenya, people speak based on what political persuasion they're feeling at that moment. So if they're supporters of the president, you're not supposed to like activists, you're not supposed to like inaboni. Hawa watu wanasema hiyo ni adabu yao, which is also very unfortunate. And then I think also, like Mika had mentioned earlier, the big mistake Tanzanian parliamentarians made is that rather than address the issue, they went and addressed people that were throwing jabs online, and they were throwing back those jabs, saying stuff like Kenya hawatushindi kitu na nini. And now they gave fuel to the people who are throwing these jabs online. And that's why, you started seeing people releasing the phone numbers of those Tanzanian members of parliament, people releasing their academic records, because Kenyans online are vicious. Like, we forced CNN to apologize. That's something that there's a tendency to forget sometimes. So I think if the Tanzanian parliament had focused on the issue, I think there would not have been a problem. I think they were unfairly attacked. I will apologize to them on behalf of Kenyans on Twitter, but I think they also approached this in a totally wrong way. Where there was no, because I was following some of those proceedings and I'm like, this is not what I'm expecting to get from parliament. And it's not like the Kenyan parliamentarians did much better, because there was MPs like Cherargei who are like Finya Kabisa, like they should learn their lesson and stuff like that, which is also very problematic, which shows that there's a problem in both houses of parliament, both in Kenya and Tanzania. I can see a comment here coming from Yakobo Simba. Yakobo anasema on Facebook, anasema the entire region has poor leadership. It's a reminder that politicians are in their class and watch out for each other. Heck, they synchronized apology speeches this week. We are on our own. My other question is, what was President Ruto apologizing for? Your citizen had been abducted. What exactly was he apologizing? I'm trying to find out what I missed. Like Mika ama unomike hapa studio. Is there something that I missed? What exactly was President Ruto apologizing for?
Mika.
Walisalimiwa.
Ruto amezoea kusalimiwa.
Sasa Ruto amezoea. Ruto ni hard kwa alikuwa anawaambia like poleni. Alikuwa anawacheka zile za mjuu umechokoza nani.
So unasema
ile ngori tukujia.
Okay, so unasema ali apologize because of our MPs walisalimiwa ama Mama Samia alisalimiwa.
Wote. Like alikuwa anasema zile fukatu wakosea basically because walikuwa shida yao kubwa ilikuwa sasa. Hata shida ile ilianza kwa kina Boni. Shida ikakuwa Twitter.
Kenyans on Twitter.
Kenyans on Twitter. No, unasikia vitu zinazofanyika, wanasema kuna Gen Z. Alihaka government really akajiandika kama nini provincial commissioner. Akachukua doa alafu akachukua doa akapeana kwa charity. Mwingine akasiji Bank of Tanzania akaiba doa akadonate kwa charities zilikuwa Kenya.
Wow. I mean,
so hiyo pole akiwaambia Fukanga alikuwa anajua anawaambia pole like alikuwa zile za hiyo pole yake tu ilikuwa za kasi. Ilikuwa tu ile kusema tu cause it was like siji prayer reconciliation thing and he was telling but God kwake alikuwa anasema at least nimepumua hii wiki sijatukanwa, wacha watukane mtu mwingine.
Okay, yeah, because that online war was vicious. Me, I was like, okay, mimi ni Kenya, but I think hapa pia tumekiuka mipaka. Like we went, it was going for the jugular. I think,
but
there was even no expectation on that side that things were going to get this vicious online.
But here's the thing though. Hata wao whatever they did was wrong. They can do that to their own person.
Unajua ukikuwa kwa government ya chama ya baba na mama. Right? Imagine this was Kenya, ingekuwa reverse. Imagine this was reversed. Right? And then sasa ni Moi. Si Moi wa juzi huu wa Moi yule Moi wa when we were young in the
80s, yeah.
Ile kwenye kulikuwa na kitabu ya chama. So imagine huo Moi. Alafu sasa wa Kenya tunatukana na Watanzania. Wewe unafikiria kina Mulimutisia kina Kamodo wangekuwa wanasema nini kwa parliament? They would have been singing the same anthem.